Yeah, it definitely can be. Outside of getting one of those crazy early Kazakhstans into spamming pure cold versus the weapon rogue, it's pretty hard to rely on Kazakhstan being a win condition because it's just too late, right? If the rogue has gotten Swine Tusk Shank on curve, they can build it up, and there is little to no resistance on the side of the Druid. There is still one Feral Rage for okasinnsuke for a little bit of armor gain, but the taunts have to be generated, if anything. And so I believe that Glowfly is his best path to victory. He does keep one, but not alongside Lightning Bloom, which is honestly a bit surprising to me.
Yeah, we would kind of, I agree, you would expect to see that to come down a little bit, to see the Glowfly come down a bit earlier, sorry. But I guess it just, in his opinion, dilutes or gets rid of one too many cards in his hand. And just being able to get it down on turn 4 should be quick enough for him to be able to take the game anyway. It's still so far before Scabs. It would have to be that kind of perfect hand where you tank some damage and then go cloak, Scabs to really have any shot pulling it back.
Middling quality hand for MegaGliscor. No Shank just yet, but he can trigger Swindle next turn with Sinister Strike. I think that's absolutely worth it. And then on turn 4, go for the passage to try and find the weapon if he's not naturally drawn it by then. okasinnsuke, on the other hand, while we did talk about Glowfly potentially being game plan A, it is kind of dependent on him finding a Lightning Bloom, because I was thinking Coin Fungal into Bloom Glowfly would be pretty strong. But if he misses on the Bloom, the curve gets a lot more awkward. So he is just going to go for some card draw for now. Probably Guess the Wait, but maybe that's just
in the guff.
I mean, I'm tunneling on Glowfly, I have to be honest. It's like another spell in hand, or Guff is another non-spell card in hand.
I mean, after you go Fungal, I think you always end up with a full Glowfly anyway, right? Because you're going to draw 3 every time off the Fungal now.
True.
Unless you get exactly the second Guff, sorry. So there's a chance you end up with 6 Glowflies, but I think it's pretty much always still the full shebang.
That's true, good spot. In any case, MegaGliscor going for the Strike into Swindle, as we talked about. Not a great set of cards to enter the hand, but he is just going to hope and pray that the passage provides him a Shank on the next turn.
Well, we're obviously looking at Overdraw being a concern here for okasinnsuke, but honestly, I just don't care at this point. If I'm in his position, I think getting down Glowfly next turn for maximum minions is so much more important. Right. Because one turn more delayed means you're suddenly in that territory I was talking about, where they can go cloak, Scabs, and I know it seems unlikely, but with the amount of card draw, the amount of searching they have with Secret Passage, it sneaks up on you. That happens more than you'd think.
True. I mean, just Cloak being essentially another timeout, another ice block on demand for Rogue that they can prep out, that they can search for with their card draw, just makes the deck gain so much more time compared to if that were not a card. Like Weapon Rogue would not exist without Cloak of Shadows. I don't even think that's a hot take. But for okasinnsuke, I completely agree. Fungal into just accept the overdraw is, oh, he's gonna coin Overgrowth. That means next turn is Guff into Hero Power, because Glowfly is just not good next turn. He's completely deviating from the token game plan and going for early Kazakhs, it seems like, instead. Which is, you know, now that I look at it, also pretty valid, because he does have Fungal for post-Kazakhstan. And versus Weapon Rogue, I think all the best treasures are spells.
Oh, it's really close, isn't it? Because he doesn't technically right now have any benefit to go with the Glowfly. He doesn't have that Arbor up, which I'm talking about as the main one, which is so important. But he had a decent chance of finding it off the Fungal. Obviously a complete miss here for MegaGliscor. But the real other benefit I see for okasinnsuke is that he can go Wildheart Guff plus Hero Power, and then maybe Fungal plus Glowfly on the same turn, the turn after that. So there's still some aggressive potential with Glowfly. It's just going about it in a slightly slower manner.
I do think Glowfly has a certain window, though, where if you have to wait until after Guff to play it, it's a lot weaker, because by then you expect the Rogue to have a significant enough size of weapon that they can actually race you by playing Cloak of Shadows. Like, you can put them in a situation where if they haven't dealt very much damage and they go Cloak, they're still not going to kill you on the next turn anyway. But we are getting to that scary point. Unfortunately for MegaGliscor, completely whiffs all the poisons and stabs, but no Swine Tusk Shank to be found. So okasinnsuke reaching for the Guff. This was the game plan that he had in mind ever since going for the Coin Overgrowth. It was just a huge crossroads that he had the turn before, but I think you hit the nail on the head. Without having Arbor up guaranteed, he says that this is the more consistent game plan. Arrow Rage? Yeah.
Oh, I instantly forgot what the name of that card was, but give a beast plus, or give a minion +2/+2, then give your beasts +1/+1. Like,
Heart of the Wild?
kind of tempting. Heart of the Wild, yeah, to buff the glowflies. Like,
True, they are beasts, right?
they are beasts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very tempting.
Yeah.
But I think okasinnsuke is just all in on the Kazaka-san. That's just my read on this game plan. He's got the Iron Bark to immediately taunt it up as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that would give him the sustain for the immediate turn following. And then he can pop off with treasures, or at least that is the game plan. Meanwhile, MegaGliscor finally finds Shank, but is it too late?
This hand can do a lot. This hand is very, very potent from MegaGliscor. I know it took a long time to get going, but I'm looking at a whole lot of burn. I'm looking at a reasonable amount of poisons. And almost most importantly of all, scabs is just such a deal breaker. Being able to almost always buy yourself a full extra turn could really start to turn this one around. Bad options at the start there for okasinnsuke.
Not the worst.
Yes. Yeah.
But honestly, not great either. Like, you just want pure cold, pure cold. Embers, Boombots, yeah, that's good.
Okay. I mean, you could try and pull off some nonsense with like Banana Split and the Army Knife, but I think just taking the more generic boombox makes more sense.
Jars? Boombox
Okay.
jar. I mean, the others are not good, so... I mean, I'll be realistic. Jars is not good versus Weapon Rogue. It is far too slow, but the others are unplayable, I think.
Taunt?
Oh, these are just terrible. Assistant.
Yeah.
Maybe it is just the injection.
Almost wondering if it was like assistant to go with the canopic jars in one more way. I don't know. It's something.
Okay, anyway, the Iron Bark committed. Gives him a little bit of safety for now. MegaGliscor is not running Coerce nor Prize Plunderer, so he has to get through this the hard way. There's Extortion, but he needs 8 more damage after that. And yes, he has Paralytic Poison, but it is still far away.
It's 3, 7,
What shall I do?
10 you can deal with Paralytic Wicked plus Extortion, which is just so tantalizingly close.
Yeah, having to use a Wicked Stab on this feels awful, so I get the feeling that he will be searching with Cutting Class or something else.
Seems unsure if nothing else. Okay.
Okay, just gonna tank it for now.
You can still draw with the Cutting Class, yeah. Whoa! Look at that. 18 damage. Plus the Feral Rage. Like, it's not lethal, but it's getting kind of close already. It's getting scary for MegaGliscor for sure.
But for okasinnsuke, he has to think about worst case scenario, which is probably just Cloak into Scabs. Because he will have no lack of pressure whatsoever with the Gnomish Army Knight. And he knows that MegaGliscor cannot remove the Kazaka-san very easily, especially when it's injected and Gnomished.
If he gets Wicked Stab, this is just lethal, right? Off of the Telescopic, because it would be 13, 26, 30?
Yes, you're absolutely right. That's nuts.
That's insane. I mean, you gotta let rip, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's 5 and 2 here anyway, so just okay, I guess. Yeah, he just ramps with that last mana. All right, okasinnsuke, fair enough.
Yeah, reasonable. I mean, it was a very long shot, and so just setting up for more powerful plays in the following turns, I absolutely understand. But it does now mean that MegaGliscor, of course, has that window of opportunity. He can happily go with the Cloak of Shadows here, which, while it doesn't necessarily keep him alive, obviously in the face of Embers of Ragnaros, even a boombox plus like Lunar Eclipse or something like that could close this one out. But it's the kind of window he needs to possibly turn this one around leading up into Scabs next turn.
Oh, the other cloak. That's one more turn of time.
Another happy
Thing is, what can he do with that time? The hand is just too expensive.
Really is.
Right, deadly poison committed. Just building up the weapon as big as he can. But is it gonna be good enough here? Surely you just play the spyglasses to have an inkling of what's coming next?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's any mana break points you're trying to hit in terms of boombox specifically and how much you want to play alongside that. I agree it probably still involves spyglass at some point, but you know, there are ways you can hit lethal here.
True, he can fish for the boombots and Lunar Eclipse one and hope that it deals 4?
True, yeah. I imagine that was the other Canopic that he unfortunately ran into on Guess the Weight.
Still able to draw with the hero power though.
Mm-hmm.
And even if he misses on boombots, he can Feral Rage. I just don't really think that the Glowfly is aiding him whatsoever, right? The only thing he is scared of from this point is Scabs or Second Cloak. So I would much prefer that okasinnsuke just try and find a lethal here. But he is going for the Jars play, which is the fun one. So is he gonna Lunar one right now?
I just feel like this is kind of poorly timed. Like, you know Scabs has to be coming, right? Because if it's not Scabs, you don't care.
Sorry, I mean, he already knew the next draw would also be Jars, but he could have gone Spyglass a bit earlier in the turn as well.
Right. Like, he's just overdrawing a card here, right? Because he went for the Glowfly, which could be another boombox.
Well, only one play for MegaGliscor, I believe.
What shall I do?
Or, yeah, is he considering if you go for, like, Cloak now while they have no board space? Is that ever a consideration?
So with the rest of your mana, you can go stab, but that's not nearly enough.
Yeah, it just doesn't...
Problem is... I mean, Scabs allows you to immediately play a Swindle as well, and the armor gets you out of range of Feral Rage. So I believe this is the line, and you just hope and pray that they don't have Pure Cold / Book of the Dead / Embers. Actually, it's only Embers that would kill by itself here. Oh, wait!
Oh, no, wait! He's just dead!
Oh, that's how it... Oh, right. Because if there's no space in your hand, it destroys the minions rather than bouncing the... Okay. okasinnsuke's a genius. We're just dumb.
Yeah, you know what, Kazakus, well, MegaGliscor missing it, but obviously us being dum-dums as well. They're very nicely spotted by okasinnsuke to see that spot there. I take back everything I said about him going too early, all in on the Glowflies there. It was just the correct play. I'm being stupid. And very, very well done to okasinnsuke spotting that line. Obviously, MegaGliscor missing things as well, or he would have just gone, I think, pretty much every time for the Cloak of Shadows in order to buy himself a full extra turn. And in the end, the Druid getting the win over the Weapon Rogue is absolutely massive, because I think one of the things that players in MegaGliscor's situation are often considering is whether to ban the Demon Hunter or the Druid. Both players have gone for one of each here. okasinnsuke banning the Druid, I believe, whereas MegaGliscor going with banning away the Demon Hunter. And so when you end up losing to the Druid after you've banned the Demon Hunter, it feels really, really rough, because you know that running into matchups like this, like, it's a contentious matchup at best for the Weapon Rogue.
Definitely. I also definitely understand why MegaGliscor banned away that Demon Hunter. He's just playing a lot of decks that lose very, very hard to glide. It's kind of the same sort of principle that we saw from Gur a while ago. Moving on to the Miracle Priest now. This is also not running Xyrella. I think that's just become the norm these days. But the other norm that I've seen in the APAC list is running 2 copies of Bless for more consistent lethal potential, because you do run into a lot of spots where as Miracle Priest you're like, oh, I just could have killed them this turn if I had Bless in hand. So that added copy can be pretty helpful. But okasinnsuke is in favor of running a Horn on top of the 2 insights. So he's also got that same tutor to minion ratio as Lambie series, but he favors 1 copy of Elec Mount compared to the second Bless. So I do worry a little bit about whether he can get all the right discounts, because yeah, I'm not sure about having Elec Mount on top of just a deck that has you more likely have Malagos in hand early.
Yeah. It's a real problem, because I'm really glad you're bringing it up, because this is the thing I kind of most misunderstood almost going into this more recent build of the Miracle Priest, because it's a real paradigm shift you have to realize when compared to the old school version of Miracle Priest that ran Rally, Sethic Veil Weavers, and the Nazmanis. Because in that build, it topped out at like 4 mana. There was nothing above that, and so that you never had these big mana sinks. You always just wanted to hoard as many cards in hand as possible, because that meant you were always getting the maximum discounts. And then you, if you were lucky or you were playing well, I suppose, you would hit that terminal velocity and nothing in the game could beat you, because you would be generating too much, making 100 worth of stats every turn, or whatever the APM would allow you. Whereas here, like you say, so many games, I hit double, maybe even triple Nazmani Bloodweaver in the mid game, but it just doesn't matter, because you have no fuel for it. You're just discounting cards that don't then allow you to play them and discount yet further cards. So I'm right there with you. I think a lot of the players, if they're building them greedily, that's fine, but they have to adjust their playstyle accordingly,
Right.
which I do think Lambie series had a very good hold of when he was playing the deck. It was very slow, very deliberate, and always having a good idea of what his following turn would be, not just what he's doing on this turn.
It is super difficult to get the timing right on how long you can greed palm reading, etc., etc. Old Miracle Priest, and I suppose Possessi's version with the rally, more is more. Sethic and all of that good stuff to have, as long as there are Nazmanis and generated spells, you can generally cheapen everything. But a lot of times with this Malagos version, less is more. And it's hard to find that correct balance. But starting with the mulligan, I expect okasinnsuke to hold on to the insight only, because you can say that holding Malagos gives you insight guaranteed into Nazmani Bloodweaver, but that's like another space in hand that you would rather be palm reading, because palm reading is low-key the most important card to have in the mulligan. Just having discounts, corrupting insights in the most convenient way, it just makes the rest of your game plan so much more fluid.
100% agree. And okasinnsuke gets himself a weird little hand here. It's kind of going in the opposite direction of the problem we were describing, right? Where there's not these really expensive cards that eat up all your discounts. There's nothing to discount at the moment, even if he can get himself very likely a Nazmani in hand in the next few turns. But hopefully his deck will provide, as I think that was a palm off the top. That's a very nice top deck to start smoothing things over, as MegaGliscor is just going with a nice clean Hero Power on 1, Hero Power Quest on 2, getting Kurtrus as big as possible for when it comes down.
So as early as now, okasinnsuke has to ask himself, what is the timing for the palm reading? It is definitely not coin it this hand. I think that is not nearly enough discounts to justify it. Next turn, you can play palm reading and corrupt the insight, and then the turn after go insight into Nazmani and gift and do a little pop off. There's no big mana sink card that you actually want at this point, like Malagos or Elec Mount even in this situation. So the hand still lacks a little bit more, but he has to be very careful because of Glide, the perennial threat, right? Sometimes if you go palm reading, the Demon Hunter is like, all right, that's my go signal. Put all those discounts back in your deck. But okasinnsuke has seen that MegaGliscor kept no cards other than the quest, so maybe okasinnsuke will be a bit more bold with his discounts.
And speaking of the glide, I do agree that is by far the most important factor. So I like that he's saving the double jump here, even though he could have played it to find Spectral Sight and complete a layer of quest right now. I think it's more important to save it until turn 5 and hope to go for the double jump glide in one turn. The difference I was wondering here was actually if you just play the Rustrot Viper. I don't know if that's insane, but just because cycling it is okay, you know, just to try and draw you through to that glide eventually, I suppose, as well. But just dumping cards from your hand is really what I wanted to see on this turn in order to set up for that glide, which is, I think, you know, almost a necessity if you want to win this game.
Close. Oftentimes playing minions this early versus Miracle Priest, if you're not going to double down on the board-based game plan the way Burn Shaman does, works to your detriment because that's something they can target with their generated spells.
Sure.
You don't want to deal damage because they'll get value off of Gift of the Naru. And Viper is not the worst card to just put back on your deck because it's a tradable anyway. So I favor MegaGliscor's line. The question here is, does he go for the old Maggie T on curve? Probably not. We saw this like get... was it in the MT? I can't remember whose game it was, but one of those acolytes just kind of got Elec mounted, and it was hard to
Yeah. Yeah, the classic counter to a demonic threat, just put them on an elephant. And that'll
I mean, it would take one more turn for okasinnsuke to pull that off.
I mean, maybe, but he might actually be able to hit that critical mass, right? If he goes, Bloodweaver off of the Insight, he, I think, very possibly would be able to play the Elec mount on that very turn.
That is true. Yeah, I mean, he has all the fuel cards and only one sync right now, which is kind of the ideal you want in this situation. So he can go in with the Nazmani, the copy, and immediate play Elec mount, which is kind of the nightmare for MegaGliscor, especially without having pre-developed the Magtheridon. He's going to have to tank the damage from the Nazmanis for one more turn before he can clear.
Yeah, I like that he's making sure that Elec mount is playable first, then I would imagine trading one of the shards of the Naru, just to, you know, not mess about with like drawing Malagos and all of a sudden your hand becomes unplayable. I think this is very well disciplined.
Yeah, like this as well. And the perfect timing from okasinnsuke. One turn before double jump into glide is available. That is a Psyche split, and that is playable right now if he wants to, and I think it is absolutely worth it. You just completely shut off glide, you make 2 huge targets, you make any top deck of yours outside of Malagos playable, I guess, and yeah, DH just cannot deal with this board.
Yeah, you just punch them for 15 next turn, as I think now for MegaGliscor, like you say, with glide all but out of the question, it just doesn't do enough anymore here. It's got to just be tempo Magtheridon, tank the 15, and then hope to pull it back next turn.
Yeah, that's the only shot he's got. I mean, okasinnsuke is working with one top deck, and even if that top deck is Bless, MegaGliscor is alive. So the scariest thing for him here is any discover effect for okasinnsuke. So Draconic Studies, because that would immediately cheapen the dragon he discovers for 4, including the Studies effect itself. And I suppose Palm Reading, Renew, those are all scary, but like you're not beating those anyway if you don't play Magtheridon, so just the mag.
Trying to find any other outs we could here. Like, if he did get glide and then get like the perfect discounts, honestly, it would revolve around Magtheridon anyway, right? In terms of hitting that and then discounting the activators. So going with the double jump first, I suppose, just spend your mana, try and find something useful alongside it. And then, as we say, tempo Magtheridon, that's the one out here.
That's a Mali. Oh no, sorry, he had one more Nazmani in the deck.
Yeah.
And so it's actually tanking 80, not 50, because of the tokens. I forgot about that.
And does that extra 3 make a big difference? 18 plus the 8 from the remaining Elex on the following turn doesn't quite offer lethal, but it offers the out of Bless off the top.
Or a Discover effect into Void Shard, as Judgment taught us.
Sure.
We will feed.
Is calling his bluff here?
Oh, wow. Really?
Oh, okay. This is to split them up in the case of Arcanist plus
I see.
Fellscreen Blast. Very smart.
Clever, clever. As it happens, will not help versus the Arcanist Immolation Aura, but that is a good spot. Removes one additional out for MegaGliscor to deal with everything. Looks like he is just going to cycle with the Chaos Strike here with his remaining mana, and will not be able to attack because the elephants will be in the way. So obviously there's only one play here, but MegaGliscor probably considering what happens the turn after this, because I don't think the Kurtrus bats will be big enough to deal with the elephants. So he's still looking at a big problem outside of whatever Okashinsuke top decks.
Agreed. I guess just wondering if he wants to go with double Immo or Arcanist Immo. Kind of tough, actually, because Arcanist Fell Barrage could be used on the following turn to kill off one of the Elix. I suppose he does settle on Arcanist plus the Immo, sorry. I guess going for the out of top deck second Arcanist, which is, I think, a more realistic win condition, because then he can go Arcanist, Immo, Fell Barrage to round out the turn and hope to get there that way.
Oh, sorry. I forgot that the elephants still take 3 damage each, so the Kurtrus will actually be enough to deal with them. These... That's a Kazakhstan playable next turn, right? Because of the studies discount.
Correct.
So that's the pick. I don't think he can afford to wait with Malagos. I mean, I don't know. Then again, you're probably dead to Magtheridon in 2 turns either way. Because it's not as though playing Kazakhstan solves all your problems immediately.
Yeah. And I think Kurtrus with the hero power factored in. Are they up to 4 at this point yet?
They're at 5-4, I believe it was hovered over.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you,
Okay,
production. So he can go Kurtrus Hero Power or Hero Power Kurtrus. That will deal with both of them. And I think he's fine tanking the 4 here. Just to, oh, really? Okay, I wanted to push this Magtheridon damage phase. Because it's like a 2-turn lethal setup, right? With the Fell Barrage in hand, if you push it face.
No, I agree. And Alex Straza would be 1 mana off being playable there, right? So that wouldn't have been an out for Okashinsuke with that line.
Yeah, nor like a discovered Void Shard, because MegaGliscor would have been at exactly 5.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh my god, how does it always happen, Gia?
I'm telling you, this is why Miracle Priest is good. They have alternate win condition that doesn't start in the deck.
It's gotta be stuff.
Yeah, it has to be.
Because it's just about next turn. You need a good top deck next turn.
Completely agree. He is
You're gonna
not
take
living till Rag.
Yeah, like it's staff. I think it's possibly like Looming Presence. Is it draw 2 and gain armor, like to actually find some of your removal options as well?
If he's given that option, but these are all disastrous for the situation.
Absolutely awful.
You take the hilt and close your eyes, probably.
Okay, there's Wand.
He's got 3 removal options in the deck right now, so there is a world where he can, like a very likely world, that he removes both these minions from MegaGliscor side. But the problem is that's Okashinsuke's entire turn, and in the meantime, he'll be taking a lot of damage. Oh, he's counting. He's counting. 21. Alvaraj. Wait. You can maneuver it so that Anduin has less health than Kazakhstan, right? So you can.
You're right. That's the lethal.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so clever.
He spots it immediately with the Fury. Very cool stuff indeed.
Yeah, there was like that 2 points I was missing at the end that I couldn't quite figure out how to get there. Like I was thinking maybe Glide gets you there, Need for Greed, whatever, not even needed. A super clever lethal spot from both you and MegaGliscor gets him up to 1 game apiece. The Priest there. An interesting game, right? Like he hit that point that you need to, where you have a huge amount of stats, Demon Hunter really struggles to clear it off. And I think he played the post pop-off turn very, very well as well, going all in with that second Nazmani to split up the minions, deny one extra out from his opponent to close out the game. But who'd have thought it? What Tempo Mag Theridon turned out to be the out there to close it down for MegaGliscor.
Honestly, it was even one turn later than Tempo. Like, I was wondering, do you ever just play this on curve? But there is the potential of being punished by an early Elec mount or some other buff spell. Turns out, playing it even one turn later, maybe you're scared of Bless or something, but MegaGliscor knew that Bless wasn't lethal on its own there. I think this play worked out because he had the knowledge that okasinnsuke had completely all in. There was no further value in the hand. Crazy how one tech inclusion can flip the matchup on its head.
Kind of unsurprising, I guess, as well, that both bans in this series were a Druid and a Demon Hunter, respectively, and both wins were a Druid and a Demon Hunter, respectively, as both the ones that weren't banned from their opponent got a win right out the start. I think for these kinds of players who are going for this, you know, mostly combo game plan, a fairly soft combo in a lot of their decks, but anti-control is the best cohesive way I could come to describe them. Druid and Demon Hunter do seem to be the real prey, the real predators of that strategy right now, ignoring aggro. Once Shaxi comes in, I think he's going to start absolutely kicking some butt with his full-on aggro lineup, but with the way these players have got it lined up, Druid, Demon Hunter taking a win, unsurprising at the start. As now, Gia, we are going full toxic, full poison, I suppose would be more appropriate, with the Weapon Rogue for both players here.
This one is very, I'll call it entertaining for a certain type of person. The important thing to note here is breakpoints, right? If you are able to get away with holding your Cloak of Shadows for one turn later, sometimes it means you play with fire, that can be the difference between winning or not, because it's like the old Freeze Mage mirror with the ice blocks, right? And the person who has the last ice block also has the last laugh. It's the same thing with the cloaks here, in my opinion, because there is very little minion pressure going back and forth. The scabs can, I suppose, put some minions on the board that are very difficult to interact with, but it's also a matter of the second person to play scabs, if it gets to that point, is in a better position because they have bounced the opposing 4/2s to the other player's hand, and they have 4/2s of their own. So it's all about the give and take here and hoping to be the person that has the final ace in the hole, because the cards counter each other.
So many weapons here for both players. This is like a full-on fan of knives, despite having left the game long ago for Rogue. But the Swine Tusk Shank, obviously, for both players, the far more important one. And the tertiary cards, the support cards in these decks, seem to be firmly favoring MegaGliscor right now, with double Cutting Class and a Silverleaf. This is such a beautiful start to the game for him.
Actually, they're reprinting Fan of Knives and calling it Enjoyer of Shanks. Doesn't quite roll off the tongue, but that's just where we're at right now.
Is the person holding it just an absolute Giga Chad as well to suit the meme?
Well, the one thing that you are happier to play first in the matchup is the Shank. However, we can see Viper available for okasinnsuke. That is a very big deal that he's running that. Gonna just check if Gliscor has one of his own, and he does. Actually, it's the exact same list for both players. So both players have the potential to just completely destroy the other's weapons, and I agree that you go for it immediately here. In other matchups where you have Viper, there's an argument for letting your opponent build up their weapon before you let loose with the Viper, but here, having the tempo advantage and just slowing their card draw is actually a very big deal.
Yeah, this 3 attacks really starts to stack up when your opponent doesn't have all too much in the way of removal. I expect here, as we are seeing from MegaGliscor, to see the Cutlass. I wasn't sure if he'd go Silverleaf or Cutting Class. I thought that was kind of close, to be honest, with just the immediate draw of Silverleaf potentially having more value. But now things are getting really complicated because it's reaching that point where if he plays double Paralytic and Silverleaf, his Shank becomes pretty flimsy when he actually draws it. But does he actually need to find the Shank in this game to be able to get there? Could he just load up on a hero power or a cutlass and then just use the Garrott's wicked stabs and sinister strikes to close it out?
Very close. Gonna depend, I think, on what comes off of the next draws for MegaGliscor, because if he is able to find another Shank, then the line becomes very clear indeed. But now that he has seen a Shank on the other side, he probably has to dedicate this turn to playing the Viper. Painful though, because he's just been taking damage from this 3-4 every single turn, and the paralytic poison, if he wants to commit it to the cutlass, is a pretty high price to pay.
Yeah, it seems he's not interested whatsoever in loading up the poisons on the cutlass. Just going to destroy it and then hope to, I don't know, go like hero power Silverleaf next turn. That has to be better than just cutting class. Like, it's so slow in terms of the card draw it's actually getting you. But it's slow for both players now. Neither really hitting the goods with some snake on snake action, meaning both players have come to a grinding halt.
Okay, very true. I mean, snake on snake action happens in more matchups than just this one. Staff of Scales and Druid Mirrors happened a lot. Terrible passage though for okasinnsuke. All he can do is trade away this cutlass and pray that it gets him the other Shank. I think it's better than straight up playing the cutlass.
Too soon.
A trade again? I don't know.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, he could remove the Viper by going Dagger, Extortion, and the Paralytic Poison. Maybe that's better.
yeah, I guess you get to keep the extortion, right? Or yeah, just go for it here and keep your own snake healthy. Sure.
It's just this 3-4 is carrying okasinnsuke. It's just getting in there.
He doesn't
going
even
all face?
trade.
Okay.
Oh,
All right then.
that is bold. I love to
I mean-
see it. I mean, MegaGliscor here is quite clearly on the back foot, right? And I think okasinnsuke has very cleverly realized that. He's got a good read on his opponent's hand. There's clearly no other Shank in hand. And even in terms of burn damage, like to get him down from 24 before okasinnsuke can get the reverse kill is going to be a super tall order.
Yeah, I mean, now that I look at okasinnsuke's original hand again, it just makes sense. He has Guild Trader, Garrot, Sinister Strike. That is just 9 damage burst. And he has Cloak, so he can just delay indefinitely. If he goes prep, cutting class, oh, it's so bad. He only has 2 mana to work with after that.
Yeah, and the problem is he can't even go like Dagger, Prep, Silverleaf, and then fit in the cutting class. It's always just outside of range. Even with the paralytic poison slotted on as well. And clearly both players have come to an agreement in terms of what position they're both in. okasinnsuke has the upper hand. He's the aggressor. He's allowed to ignore that snake and hit face. MegaGliscor has to be the one to blink and clear off the board. And so now okasinnsuke with a nice clear board, honestly, he's kind of reached that point where you just don't need the Shank. I'd like to see Wicked Stab used before a Cloak of Shadows comes down, and then Garrot and Sinister Strike alongside a Guild Trader honestly could just be used into the Cloak of Shadows later on once that's come down.
That is true. They're non-targeting, so stab into Passage would have been where my head's at, but okasinnsuke says Passage and don't even bother with the stab. I guess there's quite a few good hits, like the cutting class. And you can trade the cutlass first.
I guess, yeah, for the 50-50 to hit cutting class.
Maybe that's not the best order, but I'm honestly not sure what he would want to do with the remaining 3 mana.
Okay. Not terrible. I mean, again, honestly, Deadly Poison just for 2 damage. Like, I'd throw that down here on the weapon. I kind of feel like maybe I'm overestimating the amount of damage he has in hand, but like the Shank just feels a little slow at this point, considering the amount of burn he has available.
Oh, I completely agree. Okashinsuke is probably in the headspace where he's thinking, okay, I'm very far ahead. What can go wrong? Cloak into cloak. How do I beat that? But I still don't think the answer is Shank in that position because you're not able to go through cloak with that anyway. So just committing as much damage while it's face up and Valera doesn't have stealth at the moment, I think that would be ideal.
Okay, well, I guess with both players reverting back to the Shank game plan here, like for MegaGliscor, it makes a lot more sense, I think, because he's, 6 damage behind is a very, very big difference indeed. And his game plan seems to rely much more on getting the Shank online, surviving till scabs, and hoping that the 5 armor can maybe save him, in addition to a Cloak of Shadows. Whereas Okashinsuke, is he just like a prep away from lethal here? It's really close.
Yeah. With Guild Trader, Garrot, Wicked Stab, that's 6 plus 4. Yeah, he's literally 2 damage off or 1 mana off.
Wow.
Oh, wait. Sinister Strike, Deadly Poison instead. Does that work? 5 plus 4, 9 plus 2. Oh, 1 damage
13?
off with the yeah, it's 1 damage.
Yeah.
Oh.
Go like Guild Trader, Garrot, trade the Cutlass, and discount either Deadly Poison or Sinister Strike and draw a Garrot, and then it's lethal.
Ah, very creative.
We found it.
Of course, in the case where you are not brave enough to do that, as I would not be, cloaking up is probably the right thing to do. And I know I did mention at the beginning that the first one to cloak, the first one to blink, is usually in a bad spot. The health difference is great enough that I think this is still going to pan out in Okashinsuke's favor. MegaGliscor pretty much forced onto cloaking himself this turn. It's just a question of what he does with the rest of the mana. Is it cut in class and cloak and save the prep? That doesn't feel quite right because I don't think there's anything left he would rather prep.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, as we can see with Snake or Rustrot Viper gone, even then it wouldn't matter. It's just checkmate for Okashinsuke. There is absolutely nothing the MegaGliscor can do against the Garrot and the Sinister Strike with Guild Trader alongside it, unless by some absolute miracle he can hit lethal with like Garrots and Guild Trader in some nonsense that I can't even piece together how it would work. It's just going to be GG. And for Okashinsuke, again, I think this was such a masterclass in how to approach these kinds of games. It's you need to have that sixth sense of when you're in the lead and then how to take advantage of that. Because that turn where the Snake was on board, I think you and I were both expecting if the extortion came down, it would be to clear the minion, especially given that he had the paralytic poison on his weapon, which means he wouldn't even take any damage from attacking into the Rustrot Viper. But he realized, no, I have right of way. I'm going to keep going face. You have to trade off my minions. And because of that, he got just enough damage in over the course of the game to force that checkmate, even through a Cloak of Shadows. It was a very, very beautifully demonstrated game of how to approach these very weird matchups where board almost seemingly doesn't matter, but in this instance was like the defining factor of the game. It was well played by Okashinsuke.
That is not what they taught me right of way meant in driving school, but I want to go to your school, Mark. That sounds like I would be a lot better than I am at driving. For Okashinsuke, overall, the game plan made a whole lot of sense. I still have a little bit of qualms on that one secret passage turn where I think you and I agreed that just pushing the poison, the deadly poison damage could have been a little bit better given that he was already so all in on this game plan. But in terms of macro understanding, completely on point. And he is on match point because of it. MegaGliscor moving on to his Mozaki Mage rather than trying again with the Weapon Rogue, which means that Okashinsuke is going to go for another try on the Priest, I believe.
Yes, against the Mage, which again feels to me like it runs into a lot of the same problems as the Shaman. Like, freeze is just so backbreaking for Priest. It's a deck that relies on 2, maybe 3 really big minions to smack you in the head for the lethal damage. But the mage with Flurry and with Brain Freeze can just almost single-handedly take that game plan apart. Especially as, you know, as we've seen time and again, the seemingly correct strategy with Priest has been hold your palm readings, wait a couple extra turns, save up for these huge discounts so that on like turn 6 or something you have 30 worth of stats, or, you know, huge amounts of health at least, even if not quite so much attack. But the mage has already killed you by then. You can't afford to be that slow. So for okasinnsuke, I don't know exactly what the game plan should be other than hope your opponent doesn't have the freeze, but it's going to have to be aggressive because otherwise you just get wiped out.
Yeah, it's not as though there's unlimited freeze for the mage. They are oftentimes only running 1 copy of Flurry, as MegaGliscor is right now, and the brain freezes don't freeze the entire board even. So for okasinnsuke, as long as he can put together the health on a Nazmani that it doesn't die to something simple like First Flame or First Flame plus brain freeze, he should be in a good spot.
Yeah, I think he's running 2 Flurry, but the point still remains that, like you say, it may not necessarily be in hand. And, I mean, wow, talking of aggressive hands for okasinnsuke, this is exactly that.
Yeah, right. My apologies. It's 2 Flurry, 1 barrier in the list for MegaGliscor. A little bit against the norm, but it should serve him well in this matchup. Oh my goodness. Double Biscuit, Siphon, and Mozaki available, but he is starting off with Ruined Orb to look for any immediate card draw effect, and Rigged Fair Game is absolutely that.
That's insane. Priest is never going to hit you on the face next turn unless it's like Tempo Nazmani, which, sign me up. I would very happily clear that off the board.
Mm-hmm. Well, even though this looks like a relatively early palm reading, I think the time is now because it corrupts insight, and there's the other palm reading in hand, and okasinnsuke should get going in the matchup sooner rather than later. The fact that it's already discounting 5 cards is quite good in a 6-card hand. A lot of the times, aside from minions, you have spells that already cost 0 and you kind of feel bad about wasting discounts.
Yeah, okasinnsuke just coming really to a judgment call here as to how he should approach this game, because you could go for this kind of scrappier game, which you generally don't want to do as the Priest, and go for these early palm readings, or he could save it up a bit and go for 1 massive pop-off turn. In the end here, he does decide to go for the slightly faster palm readings. I think I agree with it. And the Horn is an interesting choice there. I was looking pretty heavily at the Power Word Fortitude, but in the end, I guess the Call of Malagos is just too tempting.
True. I mean, I looked at the Fortitude first saying, okay, that's a card we actually can play very cheaply with the Nazmani turn. However, the Horn and the Insight in hand just guarantees that okasinnsuke gets all the minions in his hand by next turn, and then the turn 5 pop-off very likely just lets him play both Nazmanis and the Malagos. I think there will be enough discounts by that point.
Perfect hand size for MegaGliscor as well to be able to draw the cards, end up at 10, and hopefully find himself an Incantus Flow still on curve, interestingly enough. But like you say, the Malagos there for okasinnsuke is obviously, you know, not a great draw, but it's still in hand, right? He has the ability to get it down, even if it's going to be, I think now, at least 1 turn off, if not 2, before he's going to be able to reach that point where he can play a 0-mana Mali.
This is very interesting because on one hand, now you guarantee that the Insight gives a discount on Nazmani, which is the far better of the 2 options.
Yeah.
So I wonder if okasinnsuke ever goes for Insight into play Horn just to remove it from your hand as a potential mana sink. However, it's so hard to judge because if the Horn can go to 0, it actually gains you mana instead because he's very likely going to have 3 Nazmanis on board the next turn. I honestly can't do the math fast enough where if you could guarantee it in such a way that if you didn't have Horn, all the discounts go on Mali and you can play it, then that's absolutely the line. But I could not tell you the likelihood of any of those things happening. So he is just going to hold the horn instead. Picks up Auspicious Spirits, which is not ideal. It's very expensive. You just wanted something that could go down to 0 immediately to let the Nazmani train go a lot more smoothly. But for now, going on to MegaGliscor's turn, he's got a full hand of no flow, which is very awkward indeed.
So obviously Double Biscuit is not really something you can consider here because of overdrawing concerns, but does that mean he ends up on like, what is this, Runedorb Ignite in order to just dump a card, or is he accepting the overdraw?
Oh man, I think I would go for the Ignite here, even though it dilutes your
Right.
deck a little bit. What MegaGliscor needs more than anything, I think, flow is a little bit late here. So either he maneuvers a way that he can get the Siphon mana proc on Okashinsuke's minions, or he picks up another Studies to siphon his own minion, because this hand is just not doing it without any discounts. However, Okashinsuke is on the pop-off,
Feed on this world.
gets,
Oh my lord.
yep, all the
This is
goods.
disgusting. This has to be 0 mana Mali, right?
Yeah, I mean, he can use Thrive to pick up something cheap intentionally. Okay,
That's cheap.
yep, that draws nothing. Wait, it looks like, based on his expression, he didn't get to play Mali. Disaster! Oh, no. If any one of those last discounts went in any other direction, the fact that it all spread evenly is a disaster.
That is so unlucky. I can't even explain how unlikely that was to happen for
Yeah.
Okashinsuke.
Oh man. And he didn't even have a cheaper option than the Auspicious Spirits, right? It's just, man, we keep talking about the tipping point of mana sinks and fuel in Miracle
Yeah.
Priest, and it's so impossible to do the math in your head to optimize it. Sometimes you just gotta believe, and it did not work out this time, unfortunately, for Okashinsuke. However, MegaGliscor does not actually have the clear on all of the Nazmanis.
He does not. He has that Shattering Blast, which could be used with double Brain Freeze to clear off 2 of them. And I guess leave up the 1/1 Divine Shield, probably, as just the least threatening one. But honestly, I'm kind of wondering if it's just like Mana Biscuit, Brain Freeze, and then Siphon Soul on the 2/5.
Right. I was looking at that as well, but
Yeah, just to reduce your hand.
oh, he's going even further, just committing an Arcane Intellect, so he's not even gonna take a discount this turn. Man,
Wow.
this is super greedy, and he knows there's a Malagos in hand, 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
All
I'm sure
right.
Shinsuke can't believe this, as yeah, he's just going in. He knows that's not drawing anything. He's just discounting the Malagos. Finally, 100% guaranteed to do so.
Okay. Sometimes it gets a bit confusing as well, the order to do this. Like, do you draw the maximum amount of spells by playing both 0 cost? Or do you play Mali first and then you have more 0 cost, which is more fuel?
Right.
It really depends on what's left in your deck, but I am sure the entire hand is playable this turn, guaranteed. I'm not quite seeing a lethal yet, even with the Bless and the Elec mount. He can take that up to 24. I'm counting 27 at the moment. Oh, wait.
But there's the Devour, right?
You're
Oh,
right.
but he didn't do it
Oh,
on the
no.
biggest minion. Like, that felt like
Yeah.
it could have been lethal.
It was. As long as you attack with the 1/1 face first, you can
Right.
get 3, and the 2/4, I guess that's 3 damage, and you could have devoured and then mounted
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then blessed. But can he still do it? He has Psyche Split now.
21, 23, 25.
E5.
Another Bless, that's
Another
it!
bless. That's
Oh, no,
it.
it has to be, right? You do it on the other minion?
On the
and then
on the
it's
2/4.
lethal? Yeah, on
I
the
mean,
2/4
no, you
it
could do
gets there.
both. You could do both on the 21/21, but I mean, it's fine as long as the Psyche Split happened too. Did he get it down on
Oh.
time? I don't think he got it. Oh no!
Oh no, I think he missed it.
Oh, the order.
He's one off! Oh! He just missed it. He needed to do it on the 2/4 or the 1/4, and it was lethal. This means MegaGliscor has a chance. I don't see it
this-
right now, but I don't know. Maybe.
I don't think he has a chance. But I appreciate your optimism. Okay.
Can he discover Varden or
No. If you
freeze?
trade Guild Trader, you got Flurry, freeze 2. You play Cram Session, you got the other Flurry, freeze another 2. At that point, you have only 3 mana to play Shattering. Yeah, you're still dead. No outs, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's like any nonsense you can get with.
Wait. Yeah, no, not working.
Yeah, okay. With
He has a
like
biscuit.
ice barrier.
He has a biscuit,
what?
though.
Biscuit. So you go biscuit.
Cram
okay.
Session into both Flurries, into Brain Freeze. Brain Freeze, he's alive.
Yeah, yeah.
But he didn't get it. Oh, dang.
Man, okasinnsuke with a sigh of relief. Like, to be fair to him, that was a really hard turn. Like, everything we were seeing was probably not the exact same animations he was seeing, right? He was playing blind at the end there in terms of what was actually happening, whereas I think we had the benefit of a couple of seconds of animation to catch up where we could clearly see there was a lethal available. So I don't begrudge him too harshly for it. It was a very, very tough spot to be in addition to that really bad beat with the Malagos earlier on, which again was just absolutely ridiculous how unlucky that was. But he does the necessary things, gets the minions down, far too much statage, and turns around a matchup I didn't expect him to take, with MegaGliscor just too far behind on the mana discount. I've got to be honest, some turns along the way there that I really didn't agree with from MegaGliscor, like his turn 4 where he went Runed Orb plus Ignite. Like, even just going Biscuit plus Ignite, you don't overdraw a card, but I think that's just so much better of an expenditure of your mana, whereas discovering another card, it has to be like exactly Incantus Flow or maybe Flurry for it to be worth it at that point. And so just banking the mana from the Conjure Mana Biscuit, I think, was a more appropriate use of his mana. But even then, it was a tough hand, and there wasn't enough he could do to survive in most outcomes.
Yeah, I agree with you on this big time. Like, playing Runed Orb on turn 2 or turn 3, I think is completely understandable if you are just trying to look for flow, because then you could still play it the turn after and have it be on curve. But once turn 4 rolls around and you still haven't hit the flow, I think you should start to plan for alternative game plans by that point. So just having the 2 biscuits maybe saved up could have helped MegaGliscor a little bit. Even though we saw that he wasn't anywhere close to getting a Mazaki clear, having the biscuits saved up maybe could have let him deal with the Nazmanis and made the turn a little bit less explosive.